Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. Today we decided to share some knowledge about Office 365 external sharing since this is a top topic in the SharePoint world. My name is Marina and I am Product Marketing Manager here in SysKit. Today with me is Matija. He's a developer lead for our SPDocket team. Probably you already know about SPDocket. This is our oldest SharePoint administration and documentation tool. Matija will later show you some best practices regarding the external sharing, and you can ask him any question if you will have it. If you don't already know, SysKit is a software development company and we are based in Zagreb in Europe. We are dedicated to creating solutions for SharePoint, Office 365 and Windows Server monitoring. We already have about 3,000 customers worldwide using our products, and we every day work on making better solutions for our customer and listening to their feedback. So let me just go over agenda and some housekeeping. At the beginning, I will tell you a little bit about our new security manager tool, SysKit Security Manager. It will be just a quick overview so that you can see how it can help you in securing your SharePoint and Office 365 environment. Then Matija will go over external sharing definition and configuration, reporting, and everything will be followed by a real-time demo. At the beginning, we will have about maximum 10 minutes for question and answers, and you can submit your questions via the chat windows, and Matija will answer as many as possible. If we will not have time to answer all of your questions, we will answer via email. Okay, so let me just introduce our tool, SysKit Security Manager. Since you are here for the external sharing knowledge, I will just tell you about the main features for our tool. So with the SysKit Security Manager, basically you can get a complete overview of users and groups permissions. You can explore it in real time. You can also create some snapshots of your environment, and you can use these snapshots to compare permissions and track changes over time, which is pretty useful to see if something has changed in permission levels, etc. And also using our snapshots, you can create various permission reports such as permission metrics, where you can see a really good overview of all the permissions level for your users and groups. And you can create also some cleanup reports, externally shared reports, and user reports. Besides the reporting, you can also manage permissions. The great thing is that you can manage permissions in bulk, and also we have some additional permission management actions such as copy or transfer permission, which is pretty useful in a case of some employees joining organization or leaving the organization, and you have to copy or transfer some permission from one user to another, and you can also do it in a bulk. You can also see an overview of your Office 365 groups in tenant, and you can also explore all associated site collection and see the permissions for this as well. So regarding the external sharing, we have some pretty useful reports which show you all the external users in the tenant, and they also can pinpoint externally shared content. You can choose the content level for which you want to see is there any external users, and also you can list content that has been shared with an anonymous guest link. But Matija will show you later at the end of the webinar how you can use SysKit Security Manager reports to keep track of your external sharing. So shortly, why use and try SysKit Security Manager? We try to develop it as a really simple application and tool with a clear interface, which is really easy to install and simple to use. As I already said, it provides you visibility of the entire SharePoint hierarchy and simplifies permission management, as you can have an overview of everything and see which permissions you want to manage, and you can also manage permissions in bulk. It supports both SharePoint Online and on-premises. So regarding of your environment type, you can use the tool in your daily work. And also it gives you more control over Office 365 groups, since this is a really like every user can create a lot of groups, and it can be really a messed environment. Of course, you can start a free trial on our website, and you can see all the features in our trial. It's 30-day trial, and I believe you will have enough time to evaluate it. And if you have any suggestions or any feedback, you can always contact us and, I don't know, give us some suggestions about new features or some comments about existing features. So I will now ask Matija if he's ready for his demo and presentation. Matija, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Excellent. Hello everyone. So today's topic is external sharing. And now on the first part we are going to look at how it looks for your users, and later we are going to see how you as admins can manage it. So some basic definition when it comes to external sharing in Office 365. So you have your tenant, you have your users, and you have external users. So you have two ways how external sharing can work. So the first one is that somebody from your tenants sends a link, authenticated link, to an external user. And this user is called authenticated user. He needs to log in using either a Microsoft account or a PIN sent to his email to view the document. So that's the first example. And the main point is that this user has to confirm his identity by logging in. And if he sends that link to another user, this different user will not be able to log in to view the same document. And compared to that, we have something that's called anonymous links. So if a user from your tenant sends an anonymous link to an external user, he will be able to view that document without actually having to log in. He will be anonymous. And if he shares this link with some other user, this other user can also view the document. So this is a little bit less secure, but more powerful when it comes to sharing. And you also have to keep in mind that when using anonymous sharing, if an anonymous user edits the document, you will not be able to check who has made changes to the document. Another important thing to keep in mind is that each time you share a document or a site, that document will stop inheriting permissions from its parent, either a list or a subsite it belongs to. So this is very important and you have to keep this in mind. We'll cover it in more detail later. So let's start by viewing a simple demo how an authenticated user can get an access link. So I'll just jump into my tenant, and this demo will be in the modern interface, modern SharePoint site. It is a little bit different in the classical one, but the idea and the principle behind it are the same. So in the modern interface, you will see sharing like this, and here I have a classical site. So it's a little bit different. The sharing screen will look like this, but the idea is pretty much the same in both ones. So we'll cover just the modern one because we have limited time. So let's say that we have a simple task. I'm a user in a tenant and I want to share a document. So for this example, I'll click share and I have a couple of options here. So the first one is I can share with anyone, and this means anonymous access link. And I can even set an expiration date. So this link will be valid for, let's say, 10 days. And that's the first option. So if I send this to somebody, he can open it without having to log in. The second option is to send a link to people in your organization. So anyone that belongs to my organization and that which receives this link will be able to open this document. The third option is people with existing access. And this means that no permissions will be affected. You will just get a link pointing to this document, and the user that you are sending this link to needs to already have the permissions. This will not assign any permissions. And the last one that we can use for external sharing with authenticated users is specific people. So if you want to share a link with external people, you have to choose specific people. So here I can type in the email from anyone inside my organization or an email outside of the organization. So for this example, I'm going to use a Gmail account called SSM external user at gmail.com. And as soon as I do this, you can see that the Office 365 is telling me that this person is outside of my organization. And if I'm comfortable with this is completely okay. I can just send the link. And hopefully, when I go to the Gmail, I will get this email in a couple of seconds. Sometimes it goes to spam, so let's just wait for it. Just to be sure, we'll do it again. So once I get an email, I can open the link and access the document. Come on. The email usually arrives in a minute, so we'll just have to wait for it. Come on. Let's give it another try. Maybe we'll have more luck with the last different document. This is a little bit strange. Okay, we'll just have to go to the next demo and we'll come back later when the email finally arrives. So this is how this looks for your users. And let me just give it. And let's go and see what you can do as admins. Oh, here it is. Okay, we can continue. So what happens? I get an email as a user, external user, with a link to open it. And I'll just open this in an anonymous session so I don't get to use the credentials I'm already logged in. So if I try to open it, it will ask me for a code and I need to enter an email. So here I need to enter the same email the link was sent to. That's my email, external user at gmail.com. And what happens now, that the Office 365 will send me a verification code that I can use to log in. And if I go back to my inbox, oh, here it is. Now I got all of the links. You can see that I got a verification code and I just enter it here and that's it. I get access as an external user to a document that was shared with me. So this is basically how it looks like from the user side. And now we are going to look how it looks for the admins. So let's go back to the presentation. So as an admin, I have different options. I can configure external sharing differently for different services and differently for different levels. So I can configure it globally for the entire tenant. I can configure it just for SharePoint for all site collections or for individual site collections more granularly. I can configure it differently for OneJeff, and I can configure it differently for Office 365 groups. So let's jump in and see how this looks like. So the first place where you have to go when configuring external sharing is, of course, the Office 365 Admin Center. And the main setting that controls the entire tenant level settings will be found under Settings, Security Settings. And here under Sharing, you can click Edit, and you will find the main setting. Do you want to allow guest users to the organization? So this is a pretty big setting. It affects everything. It's much better to control it at a specific site level. So you can click Site Level, and here you have more options. So these settings apply to SharePoint Online and OneJeff for Business. And here you have the option to completely disable external sharing, and if you don't want to have actually external users in your tenant, you should completely do it. Be secure, disable external users, and you don't have to be afraid of accidental shares with external users. But if you decide that you need to use it, you have a couple of options. So the first one would be only use existing external users, and the sign-in is required. So this is the authenticated external user that we talked about. And existing, this means that this user has to already exist in your Azure AD account. And the only way that he can exist in your Azure AD account is that some admin added it. So this basically means that admin is the person controlling who can be added as external user, while your tenant users control to which actual documents he can have access to. So this is a good way if you want to have some layer of control. The next option is new and existing external users. So basically, if I select this, my tenant users can enter any email in the sharing interface without any restrictions. And the last option is that I can share even with anonymous users. It basically tells you that you can get an anonymous access link and nobody will be asked to log in to get your documents. Optionally, you can specify the number of days for which this link will be valid to. You can change this later, and you can change this for specific links when you create them. And this is a good start for external sharing, but it's much better to set these settings in the SharePoint Admin Center. So if you actually go to the SharePoint Admin Center, you'll notice that you have the sharing section also here. And once you go to the sharing settings in the SharePoint Admin Center, you'll notice that you have the same options that we saw in the main Admin Center. So they look a little bit different, but if you take a close look at the options, only existing, new and existing, and including anonymous links, so this is basically the same options. They just look a little bit different, but you can control it at the exactly same way. And one of the things that you may notice here, that when you use anonymous links, you can only assign view and edit permissions, or view, edit, and upload to files and folders, while authenticated external users can also get access to entire sites. That's one of the differences that you have to keep in mind. And besides the basic options, in the SharePoint Admin Center, you have a lot more useful options. So some of them are that you can actually limit who can share with external users. So as this is a very powerful and potentially dangerous option, here you can enter some security groups with members who are allowed to add external users to a tenant. Other useful options that you'll find here, and maybe the most useful from all, is that you have the option to limit external sharing by using pre-allowed domains. So, for example, if I know that my company is only working with another external company which has a domain of siskit.com, I can add this domain and the external sharing will not work for any other domain. So as you can imagine, this can be quite useful. And another useful option is definitely that external users must accept sharing invitations using the same account that the invitations were sent to. That's just a neat security feature. So this entire settings were for SharePoint, and they affect each site collection. And I can use them. But it's more likely that I'll have to use different sharing settings for different site collections. And if you go to the site collections list, and you can select any site collection and go to the sharing, and here you have the same option, but this time these options affect only a single site collection. But you have to keep in mind that site collection sharing options can be more restrictive than the tenant level, but it doesn't work the other way around. So, for example, at the tenant level, if you say anonymous links are not allowed, you will not be able to say at the site collection level anonymous links are allowed. But the other way around will work. So if you say anonymous links are available at the tenant level, you can disable completely external sharing at some site collection. And this is the way that you should do it. So definitely keep this in mind. This is very useful, and it allows you to isolate the places where you want to use external users. Because for sure, you will have some sensitive content in your tenant that you do not want external users to have access to. And this sensitive content should be on a different site collection than the one you are going to use for collaboration with external users. Now we have covered how to manage SharePoint online external settings. The next place that we have to look for is OneJeff. So OneJeff has similar but different settings for external sharing. And once again, when I get to the main OneJeff Admin Center, I have the sharing section in the menu. And once again, I'll get the options for external sharing. And not to be surprised, they look completely different, but again, it's the same settings that I had in the main admin center and the same settings that I had in the SharePoint Online admin centers. The only difference is that this applies to OneJeff. So once again, I have a choice that I can use anonymous links, or I can use new and existing external users, or just existing ones, or completely disabled external sharing for OneJeff. And I can also disable it here for SharePoint. So the important thing to keep in mind is that the same rules apply for OneJeff as they apply for single site collections. So if I say at the SharePoint level, anonymous links are not allowed, and if I say at the OneJeff level, okay, you can use anonymous links, the user interface will actually let me do this. It actually lets me save, and it will spin for some time, but once you go back to it, you will actually see that it's not applied. So be careful in this admin center. You have to keep in mind that you cannot set OneJeff to more permissive than SharePoint. That's just how it works. And under advanced settings, you can also do pretty much the same things you did in SharePoint. You can block or allow certain domains, or you can say external users must accept sharing invitations with the same account. So this is pretty much the same. It looks a little bit different, but the same options. So for our use case, we are going to say SharePoint. Okay, that's okay, fine. We are going to allow external sharing for that. But OneJeff, our business policy is that people from their OneJeff should not be able to share with external users. And if I click Save, This time the save should actually work, and you can see that it has changed. Okay, the last thing that we have to cover for external sharing settings is Office 365 groups. So for groups, you once again have to come back to the Office 365 Admin Center, and here under settings, this time you have to go under services. And under services, you have to find Office 365 groups. And once you click them, you'll get two settings which let you choose. Do you want to allow members outside the organization, guest users, to access group content? And do you want to allow group owners to invite guests to groups? And that's it. And now we've seen all the places where you can configure external sharing for the Office 365 different services. Now we'll go back to the presentation, and we are going to tackle a little about external sharing reporting. So as you've seen, there are a lot of places where you can control how you can actually externally share, and your users can share basically by default. External sharing is enabled even with anonymous links. So at any site collection, by default, your users can start using external sharing. And of course, you as admins need to have a clean picture how this actually works and who are the people that have access to a content, especially some sensitive content. So we need some reporting solutions, and Microsoft has offered us, let's say, some support, but not ideal support. So let's take a look what we have at options. First, let's take a look at built-in options. So we have two options: use the admin portal, and we'll have the guest users there, or use the user information list. This one is a little bit hidden, but I'll show you how to find it. And let's go first to the admin center. So under users, you have guest users. And if you click here, you will find guest users. You'll notice my email. So this is a Microsoft demo tenant, and I've added myself with my SysKit account, and you can see that I'm here. But if you remember my previous demo, you'll actually notice that I used a different account. I used the actually SSM external user account of my Gmail. So this is the account. And you can see that this account is not here. So the question would be, okay, what's wrong? So the thing is that only users that you're going to see under guest users are those added to Office 365 groups, or if you shared an entire site with them. When you share a single document, they will not show up here. So using this point as a, let's say, good reference to find all external users would definitely be a bad choice. So the question would be, if I cannot choose the admin portal, what can I do? So one option could be that for each site collection, there is a hidden user information list. And I can access it simply by adding the following URL to my site collection. So this is my site collection. I can just add catalogs users, and I'll get the list of all users for this site collection. And everybody that appears as an email here will be an external user. So this is not ideal, but it's a little bit better because you'll notice that these two users were not in the previous admin center, and they are actually external users. So here I can actually see them, but I still don't have the answer to which documents they have access. So a little bit better. And another downside would be that I'd have to do this for all the site collections that I own, one by one. So that was the built-in support. So other options that we have is to build some custom solutions, and they can be done by using the client-side SharePoint object model and PowerShell. So I'll show you two examples which might be useful to get an idea what you can do with PowerShell. So the first one would be the first questions that I as an admin would like answered is how do I find all the external users on my site collections? So this is a simple example that will use PowerShell and Microsoft client-side DLLs. So I just have to load them up. I'll get my username, I'll get my password, I'll create my context with my password, and I'll access my web with the site collection that I used for this demo. And it's pretty much simple from that. I just have to get a list of all site users and all users that have the following flags: is email authentication guest user or is shared by email guest user equal to true. Those are the external users. And when I start the script, you'll get a list of all three external users. So you'll notice that the script has returned the users I used for the previous demo and the users that I already shared before. And it will return the users that were only shared a single document and they look like emails, but they also return the user with which I shared an entire site. So the difference is that this one, to whom I have shared an entire site, has an actual Azure account in your tenant, and this is why he appears in your Azure guest users in the admin portal. So this gives you a complete list. As you can see, the script is pretty simple and it would be easily modified to access all the site collections. Okay, so let's say that covers the external users. So the next valid question would be, okay, if I can get external users, can I also find out all the anonymous links that were created for my documents? So this one is a little bit more complicated, but basically it follows the same idea. Use CSOM DLLs, create a context, and connect to a web, and connect to a list. And this is the list I used for the demos on this site. And now you have to create a query to get all the items. And once you get all the items, you need to iterate all the items and get sharing information for them. And if the sharing information, sharing links includes anonymous view or anonymous edit link, that's it. This document can be externally accessed by an anonymous link. And when I run this script, you'll notice that it will return all the documents that have been anonymously shared. And here we go. I'll make it a little bit larger. So here you can see an example. So I've shared this document, technical review. The link type was view, so the user cannot edit, he can just view. You can see when the link was created, and you can see when does it expire. And this is the actual link. So if I were to open this, it will not ask me for a login. What you cannot see, and it would be useful, is who actually created the anonymous link. So that's not possible. And this was the PowerShell reporting solution. And the last option, oh, not this one, just a second. So the last option would be to actually use some third-party solution to get a list of external users. An example of this would be SysKit Security Manager. And now I'm going to show you how SysKit Security Manager handles this. And this is the example. So you have to connect to a tenant, and once connected, you just need to create a snapshot. And that's pretty simple. You just tell it create a snapshot containing all the information about what's shared with whom. and it should be done in a couple of seconds. And once this is done, you can go to reports and find details on all the externally shared documents or content from all the site collections in your entire tenant. And we can see that it's loading, and that's it, it's done. And under permission reports, I have an entire section dedicated to externally shared stuff. I can go to external users and select the snapshot I just created. From the timestamp, you can see it. I can select it for which tenant. And here I get a list of all my external users. So here you can see that the tool actually recognizes both the users that will share a single document or the users that have a full-fledged Azure AD account here in your tenant. And another neat way to recognize those users is by looking at the login name. So the users that have an Azure AD account in your tenant will have the EXT in their login name, while the users that have only sharing links to specific documents will have a guest in their login names. So this is nice to remember, because when you look at the user information list inside SharePoint, this is how you can simply identify which users are external and which are not. Okay, so the report would answer one question: who are the external users? And the more important question would be whether they actually have permissions. And for that, I can just go to externally shared content. I got a snapshot. Okay, this is the site collection that we use for the demo. I'm going to say, show me all the list items. And here I get all the documents shared with external users. So you'll notice API reference. That was the one that we shared in the demo. And you can see that it was shared with the SSM external user Gmail. And for example, for the full account, you can also see that it has a different permission here. One other thing that the tool can actually do is also show you all the anonymous links. So this site collection, here are the documents that have anonymous links. You can even view, is it an edit link or view link, and does it have an expiration date? Definitely a good point would be to always have expiration dates. So you do not want your links to be valid for years and years. You need to have some checkpoint, let's say a year or something, that disables the link. And these are the externally shared reports inside SysKit Security Manager. Another thing that I wanted to point your attention to is that when you actually use external sharing, as we mentioned at the start, let's just go to the documents and pick a document that has not been shared before. I believe this one should be it. You'll notice that this document is actually inheriting sharing from its parent. But once I share it to anyone externally, let's just share it with the same user. And if I go to the same screen, after this, I have to open the link. But at the point that this user opens the link, this document will no longer inherit permissions. And you have to definitely keep this in mind. You can even view it in SysKit Security Manager. So all the documents that have this red square no longer inherit permissions. So there is definitely a downside of using externally shared access, that you are going to have a lot of documents with broken inheritance. And this can be really a pain to manage. So my advice would be use SharePoint groups as much as possible. So for the internal people, use SharePoint groups, and for the external people, they will have direct access to those documents. Because if you do not use SharePoint groups, any change let's say, remove a certain user or something, you will have to do it manually across hundreds of documents. And that can be a real pain. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So we've seen the reporting capabilities, and now we can come to some sort of conclusion. So the first thing is that you definitely have to plan how you're going to use external sharing. Do you even need it? If you don't, just disable it. If you need it, who is going to use it? Which departments? And you need to educate those users. It's not likely that every department in the company will use external sharing. And this is why you should isolate sensitive content from external users. And this is done by placing sensitive content to different site collections, and those site collections should have external sharing completely disabled. So have a clear border which content is meant for internal users and what is meant for collaboration with external users. If you plan to use or you need to use external users, then definitely a useful option would be to restrict content sharing to pre-approved email domains. So if you know the company domains that are partnered to a company, then it's pretty easy. You just go to the SharePoint Admin Center, enter domains, and you will not be able to externally share with anyone outside that company. Another best practice you should follow is that you should always use the principle of least privileges. So when it comes to authenticated external users, you can give them any permission level, including full control, but you should definitely avoid doing so. And if you need to share only a single document, then share a single document. Don't share an entire site. And the last one is really important for admins. You need to monitor and report on external users. So this is essential because all the power and all the controls is in your tenant users. And you need to be aware how they are using external sharing. Are they generating anonymous links for which documents, and how many different domains are they inviting? So are they just collaborating with one company that you know of, or are they inviting different companies that you are not even aware of? So a lot of things that you should be aware of. Later when you get the slide decks, you'll find a couple of very useful resources. And now it's time for questions and answers. I'll try to go over as many as possible. Let's see. Okay, I see that we have a couple of actual users from SPDocket. And the question is, SIS Security Manager has similar or same features as permissions in SPDocket. Are the tools the same and the functionality aligned? So the future of permissions will definitely be SysKit Insights, and SysKit Insights will have a lot better support for SharePoint Online. So I hope this answers your questions. Okay, the next one. In a large tenant, is it necessary to manually check reporting, or is there an alert feature? So as far as I know, there is no built-in alert feature. There are tools that have alerts, and let's say even compare. So the SysKit Security Manager has an option that it can compare between different snapshots, but there is no alerting built in. You need third-party tools for that. I see a lot of questions, so I'll try to answer a couple more. One of them is, does a product show who shared a given document? So no, that's not possible. The only way to see who has shared a document is by having audit turned on your tenant and using the SharePoint audit. So that's a different feature, but it's a good. The good thing is that it's actually a built-in feature by Office 365. So if you go to the SharePoint Security and Compliance Center, and if you turn on auditing, you will be able to see all the permission changes, including externally shared permission changes. Another question, is there a limit to the number of allowed external users? As far as I know, so external users are not licensed and they are not limited. So you can have as many as you want. Okay, a lot of questions. Let's pick one more. And okay, this one, could companies not avoid user co-licensing if external sharing is used? Surely there should be some sort of restriction. Okay, so the thing is that external users are not licensed, but they do not have access to all the features as the licensed users. So they can see documents, they can open documents, but other functions, let's say like their personal OneJeff for the planner, they're not available. So not all products inside Office 365 are available to external users. So I would say, no, it's not possible to avoid not having to license your own users using external users. Okay, I see that we have a lot more questions, so we'll try to answer them all later by sending you emails. I'll hand it over now back to Marina so she can finish up.
Okay, thank you, Matija. That was really a great presentation. As Matija said, we will answer all the questions via email, so don't worry, and we will also post it in our blog post so you can all read it and see the answers. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new about external sharing configuration. And if you would like to learn more and try our products, you can always visit our website, siskey.com. Our support team is also always available for your questions, and also during the trials you can ask any questions and contact us via email or via chat on our website, and you can talk to our support about all your problems. And as I said earlier, you can always send us suggestions and feedback about our products and improvements and some feature requests, and we will see what we can do to ease your SharePoint administration, monitoring, and performance. Thank you again, and have a nice day. Bye.